2014.
Okay.
I have that as an agenda item underneath my report.
You're welcome. Perfect, thank
So
you.
we'll discuss it.
I'll bring that up in correspondence then.
I'm sorry. And I think I'm wrong, but no, that's it. I'm going article. No agreement check, please. Stratum tie, are we getting the state price on it?
Yes, sir. The same group is producing fire.
They don't get Pardon me?
We're in the same group as police and fire.
Right, right. Just want to make sure, and there was a question to it.
Last meeting.
Right.
Everyone else set with the manifest? Yes?
Yep, I'll make a motion to approve the manifest.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's the last meeting, 12/17, 11/24, and 11/19, 2014. Ralph?
Madam Chair, I have a question on page 4, bus route request,
Which minutes are we working on?
December 17th, 2014. Page 4 of those minutes, old business bus route request. I don't think $32,000 was the number for the remainder of the year. Am I
I don't
wrong?
think it was. Mr. Tercey, can you clarify that? I think it was like 1,500 or something for the remainder of the year.
I thought it might have been 3,200, but not 32,000.
I don't recall the actual number, but I know it's not
It wasn't
$32,000.
All right, why don't we just strike what it would cost? Take out that whole bullet.
Well,
We need to
that
have
was
that in
part
there.
of the decision driving.
Yeah, we'll need to know what that
I think part of the board's decision was based on those numbers. I believe it was 3,200, but I think originally it was somewhere around 1,500. Maybe it was, yeah, I think it was
1,050.
1,050. Okay, and then it went 3,200, I think.
Should be how much?
I'm not sure of the actual cost, because I don't have that information this evening, but
Page 7. That can't be me and Mr. Fogg at the same time.
And my brother Stephen passed away in '85. I don't think he was here to do that. So, did you make the motion, or did I make the motion to adjourn?
I believe I did, but I'm not your other brother Fogg, like your other brother Fogg.
From a different mother.
So, Steve, you made the motion to adjourn the evening at 8:35,
Yes.
and your question?
It was Steve Brown, not Steve Fogg.
Thank you.
And I voted against that.
Please don't allow that mistake to happen again, Mrs. Sullivan. Thank you.
So I'd make a motion to table the minutes until we have an accurate number for page 4 to insert.
Yeah, she's looking for it.
Oh,
So do
okay.
we have anything else on any of the other minutes?
See, I have it in my minutes as the 32,000.
Okay, well, then we'll have to table the minutes, because if we don't have the correct number, we can't put it in there.
Yep.
Anything else?
So the public,
You might want to second the motion to table.
I will
I'll
second
second
Ralph's.
it.
Aye. I'll vote in the affirmative.
However you
All in
need.
favor?
I have a question. Are we just
Okay.
Just that
Just
one
that
set of
discussion.
minutes.
just to 12/17's public is being tabled? Is that right?
That's my
Correct.
motion, yes. I didn't see anything in the non-public of December 17th to strike or amend. And therefore, I would make a motion to approve the non-public minutes for December 17th, 2014.
We already have a motion on the table, right?
Ralph, we gotta finish the motion on the table.
They call it? Didn't you
Yeah,
call
but
it?
nobody.
No,
said
we
all
didn't.
in
I had a
favor, nobody-
question. I had a
And Connie
question.
stopped it for.
Okay. Well, move the question.
Move the question.
To table the public
Right.
minutes of 12/17 until that figure can be confirmed.
We had a first, we had a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm not starting though. Who was the second? Bob?
Steve.
Well,
I'd like to make a motion to approve the non-public minutes for December 17th, 2014 as written.
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. $11.24. Ralph?
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes of November 24th, 2014 as written.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And 11.19.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Point of order.
Okay.
We don't approve budget minutes.
Oh, that's,
It's a budget workshop. It was our budget workshop. We don't need to do
It
that.
wasn't.
do we need to do that?
Ours we do, but not, was this a budget committee meeting or?
No, that was
No.
our meeting we had, our workshop.
Is there a spot in here where, thinking back to last night's budget meeting, seemed to be some concern over a line that was moved, may have been misrepresented to the budget committee? Is that in this set of minutes? Remember, it was, Priscilla was raising the point, $19,000 reduction or something like that.
No, I believe that was the SAU
SAU
joint.
budget.
Yeah, that was a totally
Yep,
different one.
I think you're right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Clarification.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to, has this already been moved to?
Yeah, we've already
We've already made a motion.
And second?
And
Aye,
a
and
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Visitors, public comment? Okay, nothing? Oh, sorry, I didn't see you.
Question. Terry Chabot, I'm from New Durham, and I don't want to take up a lot of your time, but I just wanted to confirm something that I heard through the grapevine. I'm not sure if it's true. So if you could enlighten me, that would be great. I was under the impression that as a town, Wakefield had opposed Common Core, and that you are on another path for your
That is correct.
curriculum.
That is
So
correct, yes.
it is?
Yes.
And I can follow
Massachusetts.
up with one more question.
Yep.
And I don't need to spend a lot of your time on this, but I'll pursue it in another way as well. I wondered how you went about doing that. As a committee, as a town, was it parents' involvement? How did that happen? Or can you show me or lead me to some place that I can find that information without taking up a lot of your time tonight?
We as a board did some research on it, and then we researched other standards as well.
Mm-hmm.
We did ask for the folks' input. We asked for teachers' input. Administration also had some input. We took a vote as a school board
Mm-hmm.
to not go with Common Core, to use another standard.
Mm-hmm. And that was it?
That's the long and short of it, yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ralph.
You could probably get in-depth
Yep.
information by watching it on, not to plug Mr. Comeau's
Oh, yeah, true.
website, but Government Oversight
Okay.
would have historical documentation of it on film.
Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm just, because no one's really asked about, what kind of curriculum you're going to have, or either you're told you have Common Core, and that's kind of it. So I was really curious, having that come to, you know, your system being told that you take is how you turn that around. That seems to be a real stumbling block for a lot of towns who may not really want Common Core. They just don't know that they have an option out, and so apparently there's an option here.
There is an option.
Great, thank you very much.
You're welcome. New business, reorganization of the board. Do you have anything from?
I did, I was curious about, I'd gotten a phone call and a subsequent email, but in the phone call, you asked some board members what you'd like to have on the agenda.
Mm-hmm.
I believe I expressed the desire to see a discussion on the RFP and the process, and
You did. I might have missed that, Ralph, and if I did, I apologize.
if I
But we can put it on the agenda if you'd like. Or
maybe,
put it under old business if you like.
well, if it's the desire of the board, I thought because there's items on the horizon, there's a policy that addresses it that I've been aware of for a while, and I think that it's important to address that policy. So
Okay.
I can wait for the
Yeah,
desire.
let's get through this and then we will definitely address that for you.
What policy is that, Ralph, that you want us to confirm or look into?
Yeah, which one are you referring to?
I am referring to, I believe it's, of course you'd have to ask. And I do have it. I believe it's BEGH. I will find it, I promise. Yeah. I'm sorry, it's DJE. Bidding requirements. Nice t-shirt.
Okay, so we'll take a look at that now. We can put it on the agenda so it can be addressed.
For all business.
We'll keep it under old business, yes. Okay, reorganization of the board. Any suggestions? Steve?
First off, this, I believe, should be under old business, not new business, but, that being said, I'd make a motion to nominate Ralph Fogg as chair.
I'd accept the nomination if there was a second. Motion fails.
Motion
Or
fails.
Nomination fails.
Next. Steve?
I'll make a motion for Ralph Fogg as vice chair.
Accept that nomination if it was a second.
Motion fails, no second.
Nomination fails.
Nomination fails, sorry.
Okay.
Anything else?
Make a motion to nominate Bonnie Sear as a Budget Committee representative.
I would ask why at this stage in the game would you want to, while we're right in the middle of budget season, would you want that changed?
You'll be here for the next year, and Steve may not.
You don't want to move forward from the alternate to the, because we're going to have to restructure again once elections come anyway. So is that something you want to hold tight until March, and then when we restructure, then do it then, or? I guess I just don't see where it would be a positive transition during, right in the middle of budget season, where I haven't been the one at the table and
I think budget season's pretty much over, isn't it? Other than deliberative session. You don't feel you could represent
But that could change in March again, though, right?
it will change.
Well, that's why I'm thinking about the budget committee for next year, actually. But
Well, and I guess my point is, Ralph, is that with elections in March, we always have to restructure the first meeting again. So if budget season is already done and you two have done the year successfully so far, I just think that you should continue until the end of the year, until the elections, is how I feel on that. Do you no longer want to be the representative, Mr. Brown?
I didn't make that comment, but I have a problem with some of these other ones staying the same.
Well, I think I do as well. So, do you have any suggestions, Madam Chair?
I have a suggestion on a couple of these.
Well, are we talking about budget first?
Are we talking, we want to finish budget, or we want to?
is,
I guess,
if the business of the motion from last month has not been completed, you know, perhaps one of you may have a vice chair in mind you'd like to nominate. Because the only action that was actually completed when the motion was first made, the motion to restructure the board, the only action that actually took place was the chairperson was changed.
Correct.
So,
And now we're going through and we're reorganizing.
so if we just skip beyond vice chair, we're not addressing that issue.
Well, apparently by affirmative consensus, no one feels the need to change vice chair at this point. So unless you have another suggestion and we can get a vote on this to change it, I don't see how we can change the vice chair.
I would ask you to reaffirm Bonnie.
Okay, we can,
If that's the desire of the majority of the board.
then I make a motion to leave Bonnie Seer as vice chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Discussion?
Go ahead.
Why?
Because I don't see any problem with her being the vice chair. And
Well, I mean,
I don't have a problem
unfortunately,
with
you weren't here to witness the festivities November 4th. So now you're gonna have someone who's requesting illegal meetings, conducting board business outside of a public meeting, and bid staring.
correct.
So,
And-
I guess if that's what
Mr. Brown, we're-
excuse me, I'm speaking and I haven't finished yet.
Go ahead.
Okay? That's another problem on this board, the constant interruption.
Go ahead.
Now, where was I before I was so rudely
Bid staring.
interrupted? Oh, yes, bid staring. So, I mean, if that's the kind of representation that's gonna be directing the board, good luck with that, because
Thank you.
this is...
It'll be problematic.
Are we
Mhm.
done? My motion stands.
Do you want to call the vote?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I think you're supposed to wait for that to be
Wait for the
called.
chair to call.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
3-2. Next.
I would still nominate Ms. Seer for Budget Committee Representative. If she refuses the nomination, then I'd move to ask Bob to be the Budget Committee Representative.
I'm going to refuse. And I have to honestly say that in light of, I wholeheartedly support the committees that I am on, but in the light of current events and the mistrust I have in some of my board members, I would consider doing everything as a complete board until elections.
Anybody else?
I don't think that's a bad idea. The problem with the idea, not that it's a bad idea, but the problem with it is, why would you want to call subcommittee meetings when you can just conduct the business at a regular board meeting?
Then I make a motion, we dissolve the standing subcommittees of the Wakefield School Board, and all business will be brought before the board.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can I get discussion?
Yes, you can.
So, no more
No more subcommittees.
subcommittees at all, and just everything will be done here
At
at 4
board
o'clock?
level, 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock,
5 o'clock.
And the board officially convenes.
okay. Okay.
And I believe the standing subcommittees this will go with is the policy, the facilities, and the grant review committee. Will all be dissolved and be brought before the board. Oh, go ahead, Mr.
And
Tracy.
transportation.
And transportation will all be dissolved and be brought before the full board to be discussed as a board. And that'll take care of that problem.
What's the matter with technology? Capital improvement?
That's not a standing subcommittee. Those are just, we are representatives for those committees.
Norma?
Yes.
So it's policy, transportation, facilities,
And
and...
grant review.
Thank you.
Kick and yap. Now, does anybody want to make any recommendations to representatives to the committees?
Do we need to move that vote first?
Did we not?
He did for discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can we move the vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I think that's a reasonable solution.
I think that just makes the most sense.
So with that being done, what does that mean if we're a delegate to the New Hampshire School Board Association? Do we still attend, or do all of us go?
You can still be the delegate.
Ralph, are you coming as well on Saturday?
I have registered to be there on Saturday, absolutely.
Okay.
But I was just a little bit shocked to hear the chair declare he'd still be the delegate, but that, I mean...
Well, no, I mean, as, you know,
Wouldn't you want to
unless we
discuss it?
change something here, then that's how it will go. We're not done changing this, Ralph. I'm not presuming that anything will change. I'm saying, in answer to her correct question, until we make any more changes, yes, whoever's the delegate will continue to go.
It sounded like an assertion to me.
Okay, excuse me. Next. Any
What-
more changes?
What do we got left? What's still on? What's still left?
Café services is not being addressed any longer, is that correct? There's no more concerns about café services representative?
You would still want to maintain those
We still want a
representatives.
representative.
Okay, so was that mentioned just a minute ago?
No, that was not mentioned because we still want a representative to that board. So do you want to go on the cafe services, or do you want to leave it as Bonnie and Bob?
Should we just start at the beginning and go down that, everything that's a representative?
So
You
I thought
certainly
we were
can.
doing.
Yep.
Okay, so the budget committee, are we going to stay with Steve Brown and Ralph? Guys?
That's fine by me.
Do we need to make a new?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think you should make a new alternate.
Does anybody want to stand in for alternate? Mr. Willett?
No.
Ms. Seer?
Nope.
Ms. Joy, would you like to be the alternate?
We do need an alternate, so I'll stand in for alternate if we need an alternate.
I'll nominate Norma Joy to be the alternate for the budget committee representative.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Negotiations rep. We have Bonnie and Steve. Do we want to make any changes?
Is that broken, is that completed its mission?
For this year?
And there's more negotiations on the horizon?
For next year,
Next year.
the teachers.
So So that would be something.
Which
in
won't
March.
start till after.
After
the
elections.
election.
After elections.
I'll move to table that item till after elections.
Professional Development Committee?
Mm.
Steve?
Do we have to vote on tabling that?
I don't see why we would have to
If
vote
it's
on
a,
that.
if it's a consensus, it'll be all right.
Professional Development Rep, Steve? That's yours, do you,
That's, okay. Well, unless someone else wants it.
anybody want that? Okay. Ralph? No? Facilities Committee?
That's gonna be
Oh,
all
that's
of
gonna be
us.
gone, sorry. It's gonna be all of us. Wellness Committee, it's Bonnie. Does anybody else want that?
What are the responsibilities of this wellness committee? It's a once a year event?
It's once a month. And it's just input. It's a meeting with, it's just a representative to know what's going on, health
do
and
you-
fitness wise.
Who do you meet with?
Who do you meet with? You meet with the Wellness Committee. Who is Mr. Boynton, the school nurse, other teachers, and student reps.
So it sounds like it's a open board, open committee. 9 members, 11 members.
You want me to go ahead and speak? Or?
Please.
All right, so it's PE teacher, the health teacher, representative from food services, the nurse, a classroom teacher, a parent.
Slow down just a little bit.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
A school board representative, and a member of the public.
I would like to stay on if possible.
Does sound like 7 people.
I think that's the right number.
No suggestions?
I'll make a motion to nominate Bonnie Sear for that wellness committee representative.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Hampshire School Board Association delegate, we have Bonnie and Ralph. Do we want to keep it as is, guys, or?
I don't mind attending. I enjoy going to the meetings and the conferences that they have. I find them very educational.
Ralph, you want to stay?
I don't find them too enjoyable, but I do find them pretty educational. So I don't think one person can properly represent to the board what's going on down there. So if no other board member would like to take my place, I would remain if nominated.
I make a motion to nominate Bonnie Sear and Ralph Fogg to the NHSBA delegate as our NHSBA delegates.
Second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Café Services, Bonnie and Bob. Any change?
I'd like to stay on.
I would too. I
Could we go back to the NHBA? Who seconded?
I second it.
Thank you, I thought so.
The scope of that, can either of you tell me how greatly our tax dollars are affected by the actions of that committee? Does it, I remember that some parts of the conversation were to keep rates the same, and then Café Services came forward with a different contract, and you had to, I think you had to straighten that out to keep the numbers the same. If somebody was not paying attention to that issue, what impact does that have on the financial end of it? Would
Well, I believe we had to change it. We had no choice.
we had no choice, even though the negotiation said that the price was supposed to stay the same?
Well, that was before, was that, Mr. Trustee, is that before that, they came to us saying that the price had to change, right? For price of the school lunches.
School lunch?
Yeah.
And ultimately, the board establishes the price. However, the price has to be, it has to be equitable in the sense that it has to be fair for students that would qualify for free and reduced lunch. It can't be anything less than that. And we basically have to put together information in a substantial form that we have to submit that the state kicks back with what they recommend as that cost. If we don't go with that cost, we could ultimately end up having to pay and transfer monies into the food service.
So the negotiations were made,
Mhm.
and a price was agreed to,
Yep.
and then the contract came forward with a different price? Is that how that happened?
Yes.
Yes, and the full board voted on that.
Yep, and the full board made a decision together. And I would say that tax-wise, we are actually saving money with cafe services, which is lowering the loss.
You're decreasing your deficit, so you're not having to make up that difference.
Yeah.
I understand.
Steve?
While we're on cafe services, I had someone ask me recently what was going on with cafe services. At some point, probably started maybe back last spring, went into summer. We were thinking about different options other than cafe services, but then we ran into a time constraint, and the question to me was, what are we doing with cafe services now, so that if in fact we have enough time to go out and look at something else before it's too late again this year.
Okay, we can certainly put that on the agenda for the next board meeting, because that does need to be discussed, but I don't think that needs to be discussed at this time. We're making changes at this point. So, Mr. Tercey, if you could make a note for that for me, please.
You do have any
The comment I was just going to make before Steve spoke was that I think that we need to put this back out to bid for this next coming year,
So we'll take a look at it on the next agenda.
which we discussed.
Okay, so you
No, with-
want to make any changes, Ralph, or what are you suggesting?
Fall under, with some comfort, feeling you understand the scope of it, I'll renominate Bonnie Sear and Bob Willett to the cafe services representative positions.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Technology Committee,
This is,
that's me. And as of this year, I have not been called to any of those meetings. Ralph?
this is something that, when we look at my other issue here with the bidding requirements, this is an important position. You know, if we're spending $133,000 a year, and we're not communicating with the provider, is there a reason why, yeah, I mean, is it because the contract's been signed and there's nothing to discuss? Is that what it is? Why haven't you been able to sit in with the technology committee?
I
Not,
believe that,
go ahead.
I believe that it's two different things, isn't it?
Yes.
Technology contract goes through the SAU, and the technology committee that she serves on is the committee that focuses on the technology in this one specific building and how it interacts with the educational purposes.
But the same technology company that's providing services here at the school is the same one providing services at the SAU, isn't that correct? So
Right, but one is different than the other.
it's the same company.
Well, wait a minute, there is a rep from Back Bay on the technology committee.
Right. But as of yet this year, I have not been made aware of any meetings that they've had, and I'm not sure that they...
Is it up to
I'll
the
check
board?
on that.
Can you check on that? I mean,
Yeah.
because I have not been called to any meetings. So, go ahead.
Is it up to the board to set up a meeting? I mean, is
They
it,
usually communicate with me, I'm just the rep for the,
well, I mean, if you got a contract and you got no problems with the
That's-
money you're taking, why would you want to call a meeting?
go ahead, Mr. Tercey.
The purpose of the technology committee is not to review the service provider. The purpose, the original intent of the technology committee was to develop a technology plan, which is it's a plan that drives our technology purchases of equipment throughout the year.
A money issue.
However, it's not driven around determining who the service provider would be to run, and it's just a matter of reviewing and updating your technology plan.
But it's still a money issue, and it's still something that could be negotiated if if there was a convening of a, committee. And I'll bounce onto that bidding thing. If we have a policy that calls for 3 competitive bids, it's only fair to the taxpayers in the town to make sure that that happens on an annual basis.
This committee would not negotiate contracts. That would be the SAU Joint Board for our technology services. If it was a Wakefield contract specific to Wakefield, the Wakefield School Board would negotiate that contract, not this committee.
But wouldn't the committee be able to bring forward some information to whether it's the joint board or the Wakefield School Board about, what's being provided, at what cost, and what the goals are, to me, if the board says we need to address this, and the committee member or the representative goes back and says, our district feels as though these issues need to be looked at, that's the conversation that seems to be missing, right?
Mr. Brown?
Mr. Fogg, this is basically the needs and wants of this building. What's going on in this building, whether they need equipment, that type of thing. It doesn't specifically have to do with the Back Bay contract. It's what's going on specifically in this building, whether, internet speed is good, whether they need earbuds, whether they need equipment, that type of thing. It doesn't really focus on the Back Bay contract. It just focuses on all the needs of what's going on within this building alone. It's not a joint board issue type of thing. It's not, doesn't have to do with the contract of Back Bay.
I guess my point is, there's no conversation between the school board and the provider. There's no opportunity for bettering either the service or the school district or anything else, so.
So would you like to sit on that board?
Not really. But
I'll make a motion to nominate Ralph Fogg to be the representative of the Technology Committee.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anything else, Mr. Fogg?
I abstain.
Safe Routes to School representative, we're not doing that. The capital improvement project representative is Mr. Fogg. Anybody want to make any changes?
That seems to be slowly evolving as well. That's a planning board thing.
So do you still want to sit on it?
I don't mind sitting on that.
Okay.
But, again, I would feel more comfortable if the rest of the board feels as though I should be involved with that.
Can I get a second? Oh, I make a motion to nominate Ralph Fogg for the capital improvement project representative.
Steve's side, so maybe he wants to be there.
Oh, okay.
No, I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
I abstain.
And the SAU withdrawal study committee is
That's on hold
on
until
hold
elections,
until
right?
elections. No?
No,
We can, yes?
man,
Yes.
because with whichever the way the vote goes in the spring, you're going to be if the vote goes in favor of the article, then you have 2 years to wait prior to even asking to set up a withdrawal committee. If the article fails, then you actually form a new planning committee. So this withdrawal subcommittee is null and void for a
Okay.
minimum
Good.
of 3
Good.
years.
All right. All right.
What, can we just visit that again one more time? If the town says they're not gonna accept the withdrawal committee's recommendation, wouldn't it be right back to the drawing board, and the withdrawal committee would begin to work on a plan? Saving that time span, that if the withdrawal committee's recommendation is approved by the voters, and with a vote of yes, then I can see the time lapse. But if the voters vote to not accept the recommendation, I think it's back to the drawing board for the SAU withdrawal committee, right?
Steve?
If you were focused, Mr. Fogg, on what Mr. Tercey was saying, he actually said it correctly.
Okay.
An affirmative vote on the article will delay it by 3 years. A negative vote on the article will send it directly back to the planning committee. So that's why we need all the people in town to vote no on, what is it?
Article 8.
Article 8. No on Article 8 will send it right back to the planning committee for a year.
I guess I just did focus on the last statement that was
Yes.
for 7 years. Sorry about that.
That's right. So just for clarification, it's a new committee will be formed. A
Correct.
planning committee, not a withdrawal committee. It's titled a planning committee.
Okay.
And you have to get new representatives onto that committee.
Okay.
Okay, now we wanted to take a look at policy BG, board policy development, and policy BGA, policy development system. Ralph, I think you asked for that, did you?
Steve, Mr.
Steve,
Brown.
Mr. Brown asked for that. You had a question on those two?
Yeah, there's really no process or anything that's being directed by the board. This is kind of just like one board member can bring up whatever policy so suits them. And it's happened, and as a matter of fact, rather recently.
Okay, so,
There needs to be something that is directed by the board, what policies will come up, when they'll come up, and that should be, adhered to, not just, well, if I don't like someone, I can put this on and that on, and then we don't. I mean, there's...
which policy are you referring to, Steve? Is that both of them, or just one?
Well, yes, both of them, but as an example, you have policy IGD from October 15th that's gone nowhere, but yet we bring up whatever policy one board member wants to bring up.
And which board member are you saying, Mr. Fogg? Mr. Brown?
Well, no, we clarified Mr. Fogg in the minutes prior to.
Yeah, Mr.
so
Brown, which
thank
board
you.
member are you saying brings policies?
Well, who's bringing the policies up? There's no direction through these policies from the board as to what policies come up. Nothing. There's nothing in there from the board. So who's making the decisions to what all the policies are going to come up next?
Would you, okay.
There is none.
So no, and I understand, totally understand what you're saying. So do you want to put these two policies on the policy?
Apparently,
agenda for
we're
the next
going to
meeting?
have to, because I think there needs to be a process that is driven by the board and not just one or two
Then that's fine.
members.
Mr. Tercey, could you make a note that we want to take a look at these two policies specifically at our first policy meeting of the board, please? How do we do that?
Just for clarification, since the standing subcommittees have been dissolved, policies would be put on the agenda just as they were this evening.
Okay.
So there's not a policy agenda. You
Okay,
would go
so-
on your regular agenda, and what I would recommend is if, we could table these two policies and give board members an opportunity to bring some proposed amendments to these policies. That'll be fine. Or if they see any other policies that deal with school board policy development they'd like to see on there, just let myself or let Ms. Joy know, and we'll put them on there.
Ralph?
Instead of tabling this, I would like to make a motion to adhere to the policies as they're written until the time the school board has an opportunity to review policies that they've decided to review. Until the time we review a policy and decide on a change, there's a process. You have to have public hearings, you're talking about the policy that you want to change, the reasons why you want to change them. Why can't we just decide as a board here tonight, if it says Wakefield School Board will develop policies, it doesn't mean one Wakefield School Board member, or two Wakefield School Board members, or three Wakefield School Board members. It says the Wakefield School Board. So my motion is to adhere to the policies as written and work in the future to review policies as the board sees fit, according to policy.
Bonnie?
I guess I'm looking at the policy and I'm looking at J where it says the superintendent or designee is responsible for notifying the board of all policy updates and revisions provided by the New Hampshire School Board Associations. The board will then schedule time to review such updates. I have to say that in the policies, and when you put us on the policy committee, you gave us not permission to like go through the policy book, and I did this with Michael, with the other policy person, and I can't remember who was on policies before Norma.
Steve.
So we went through in March and then we went through, and I'm hoping that you still have my letter. If I went through, I read all the policies and I said what should be reaffirmed, what should be revised, what we didn't have, what the New Hampshire School Board Association recommended, and I gave that to everybody in the policy committee, and we moved forward through those, Mr. Brown and Mr. Tercey. We moved forward through those, and I guess in the past few weeks or in the past few months, things are being brought up, but it's not an individual policy committee member or an individual board member, but as things come up and at a meeting they get sent to the policy committee, it's then our responsibility to look at those policies, and it may be a policy that the policy committee doesn't even think needs to be looked at, but if the rest of the board members feel it's important, then that's our experience. We've had a lot of things tabled over the past few months, which has really negated moving further on further policies, but I look to Mr. Tercey for other than my own research on the New Hampshire School Board Association website and reading through the policies and the ones that were, we found some that had Café services in them that needed to be changed, and those were all brought before the whole entire board, and the only reason that they were brought forward is because they were incomplete. So our book was incomplete. That wasn't a decision we made alone. We made that with our superintendent. So I don't believe that the policy committee has failed to do anything in regards to following BG or BGA, and I think that I don't have a problem, and I don't think that things need to be changed, and we just have to bring everything before the board until we can have a little more faith in one another, if possible.
Ralph?
I guess my motion fails without a second for discussion.
I'll second. Can you repeat your motion, please?
My motion was to adhere to the policies as they're written until the time until the point we have a policy the board feels needs to be reviewed, and then at that time review it, go through the proper process that's laid out in the policies, and
I'll second that for discussion. Again, it just goes back to there is no actual process in these two policies that is being driven by the board. That's, once again, the problem. This is not board action that's being taken. This is something less than board action, and that's the problem with these two policies. There needs to be a specific process, because as we've recently seen, we can just pull any policy any one member so desires. And that's not the way it's supposed to work. You're supposed to be working as a board, not as one board member directing a whole committee.
Actually, I have to yield to let the other members speak if they'd like to.
Okay.
And actually, if I could just say, finish up in saying that if we're putting these two policies on the next agenda, I would like policies BBAA, Board Member Authority, which no one has, and BCA, Board Member Ethics. Thank you.
Go ahead, I'll yield.
Go ahead, Bonnie.
I guess I'm going to ask everybody that's not on the policy committee to go read through your policy book and find out what you think needs to be reaffirmed, what policies we don't have, what you think needs to be revised, and have all of those available so that we can all mash together once you completely read your policy book, so that you all know what's going on and we can all be on the same page.
Are you saying we don't already do that?
I'm saying, didn't we already do that?
I don't know if everybody's already read all their policy book or not, and if you've made your list of what you think needs to be revised, reaffirmed, or what we don't have.
But
Mr. Willett?
But isn't that the policy committee's job to do that?
It is, but now we're all policy committees.
Right, we are all policy,
Right, I'm
and I
saying
think
it's
that,
been done prior to this.
But we're being told that we didn't do it right, Mr. Willett.
okay.
Well, Mr.
All
Brown's
right.
on the committee.
He is.
no, I'm not.
He was.
And once again, I like to say, there is no process as to what policies come up. If anybody can just go through their policy book and say, well, you know, today I don't like Johnny, so we're going to bring this policy up. I don't believe that's the intent of either one of these policies. And that's the problem with these two policies, is there's no actual process that policy XYZ will be looked at every 6 months. There needs to be a process so that we don't have any more abuses of the policy.
Mr. Pond?
I have to disagree with Steve on the way these policies are written. It does say the Wakefield School Board can review them. And it does talk
Right.
about, when Bonnie said J, it's talking about the superintendent or designee, which I would interpret, my limited capabilities, that's a designee not of the school board, but of the superintendent at the SAU level. So, I mean, only because in this policy, the last paragraph says, a member of the SAU staff is to be designated and delegated by the superintendent with the responsibility to maintain the board's policy reference files, to draft policy proposals as instructed by the board or superintendent, to maintain the board policy manual, and to serve as a liaison between the board, the NHSBA, which is New Hampshire School Boards Association, State Board of Education, and other sources. I think these policies, the way they're written, they're complete, they're understandable, and that's why my motion, which I would ask to move the motion, is to adhere to the policies as they're written. Please move the question.
There was a second, right?
Was there a second?
There was a second.
I second it for discussion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Old business. Done. Old business. Administration.
You did tell me I could bring up my policy.
Oh, yes, you can, Ralph, and I apologize. Go ahead.
Oh, my gosh, it's the bidding policy. Anybody remember what it was? DJE, I think. Bidding requirements. The reason I'm asking to have this addressed, and I asked to have it on the agenda, as things are out for bid now, it's talking about $3,000 amount. It's talking about when the bidding procedures are used, where they're gonna be advertised in 2 public places for 3 days. Talks about having,
I don't see $3,000 on mine.
well,
I believe that's been
It's
updated.
here.
to
May 30th.
mine was adopted May 30th, 2012.
This was adopted August 6, 2013.
Okay,
So do
so
you want
what's
to
your
read
number
this?
there?
$5,000
Okay,
when feasible,
yeah,
on or at least 3 competitive bids.
yeah. Okay, does it also say, all bids must be submitted in sealed envelopes addressed to the board and plainly marked with the name of the bid and the time of the bid opening? Bids shall be opened at the time specified, and all bidders and other persons shall be invited to be present. Does it say that in the policy?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so why are we directing people at the SAU to be opening the bids? Wouldn't we be undermining this policy? In my opinion, and what I've tried to share with our board members in previous conversations, I've always thought it's the board or commission's duty to open a bid that comes in a, whether it's a plain brown envelope, just says bid, RFP, you know, it doesn't even have to have a return address, because sometimes that skews things. I don't understand why the school board isn't adhering to the policy, opening the bids as they come. And certainly, we have the ability to sit and not open brown envelopes or white envelopes until we have that 3rd bid. So we're not opening up bids and disclosing numbers and putting it back out to bid so that somebody already knows those other numbers. And why are we not adhering to this particular policy and allowing the school board to open the bids?
Going forward, that is the policy, and I think that the bids need to be addressed to this, brought to the school board. And unless something changes, that's the way it should be handled, because that is what the policy states.
I guess I would like to ask to have this put on the policy committee too, if possible, because I guess I'm not an expert in all fields, so if it was cafe services related or transportation related or facilities related, I would want the person who's in charge of that for us, as well as the superintendent and the business administrator, to be here with us so that if we have questions or concerns, they can be here to address the answers to that at that point in time. So I would like to see that being added to the policy so that we...
It's in there. Bids shall be opened at the time specified, and all bidders and other persons shall be invited to be present.
I didn't take it as that. Other persons, that's fine. It's all interpretation, Ralph.
Well, I mean, I'm another person, I'm not a bidder.
Right, but should we make it a little bit more specific, I think is what she's saying, you know, if it's facilities related, should our facilities manager be here, as well as?
Well, the facilities director or the superintendent would be able to say, you know, we're opening up the bid and we're going like this. And, well, this has that information that's required according to the RFP, and what do you think? I mean, we'd have the discussion, and then we'd be able to say, Mr. Tercey, Mr. Adams, Mr. Williams, is it your opinion that this complies with the bid requirements? And that way, what has happened is bids get opened, and they get vetted, and then they get presented. And one person's interpretation at the SAU level may not be the board member's interpretation of what qualifies.
Now, can I ask a question, which I just don't know? Have they been opened at the SAU level because you make copies for all of us so that we can all have a copy when we read them? Are they vetted through your office or just copied through your office and given to us?
The current, Madam Chair, the current process is we set a due date for the bids. The bids are usually due on a specific date by 4 o'clock. At 4 o'clock, whatever bids are there, We sit and we open. It's usually Mr. Adams or Mr. Castle would be there, but it's always two people that are there. They open the bids, and then a summary sheet is put together on the bids. Those two people make sure that they have all those requirements. If they don't, a phone call could be made at that point. A summary sheet is put together, and the summary sheet's been what's provided to the board. That's the process that
Okay,
we've
so
always followed.
Maybe in following that's where the conflict is coming in. So we would have to have some form of a policy, because opening one bid is great, but 5 of us can't all study it at the same time if there's only one copy.
It's maybe the process. It's adverse to the policy. First and foremost, it's adverse to the policy. But it's also the problem, because the experience has been you can open a bid at the SAU level, and then whoever's reading that, 1 or 2 people, so it's a board duty responsibility to find out where the money's being spent. But that 1 or 2 people has the opportunity at their discretion to pick up the phone and ask the potential bidder, whoever's coming forward to us, certain questions. Would you like to answer this that way? Would you like to answer, it's selectmen, assessors, we ask for bids, we receive them, we open them. We don't allow the opportunity for, why allow the opportunity for a singular or 2 people that aren't in the position of having the responsibility to direct, manipulate, divert, at their discretion? They're forwarding what they feel needs to come to the school board. It's the school board's duty and the school board's responsibility to make sure that we're making the decisions. And the policy backs that up.
Okay. Mr. Brown?
Oh, are you done with that topic? I have something else I'd like to bring up on the old business, if you're done. I guess you're done. Clarification, that was the withdrawal article is Article 9. I think it was 8, I think you said?
It's 9.
It's 9. So we'd be looking for the voters to vote no on Article 9. My other concern is Articles 4 and 5, which were discussed extensively last night at the Budget Committee. And Article 4, I'm looking at a number of $273,000. Article 5, I'm looking at a number of $820,000, which comes up to $1,093,000. It's my understanding that we're actually bringing in 1.5. So my question would be as to where is the other $405,000, and why is that $405,000 not being reflected as a revenue into the budget, as these 2 numbers were?
I'm not prepared to answer that question.
Okay.
Can we get an answer to that, where we are in the budget process?
Mr. Teresi, if you can get that answer for us and clarify that, that would be great, please.
Thank you.
Can I just get clarification on the question?
Mr. Brown?
Clarification in reference to...
1.5 million. Where is that number coming from?
That number's coming from, I believe we're looking at 1.1, 1.2 million in assurances, and the remainder is in federal grants. And that was the final number that I was given, that between the assurances and the federal grants, we're looking at 1.5 million.
That was
Yeah.
last spring, correct? That, you're referring to the breakdown that was given last spring? It was a 1.5 that included the adequacy?
Right, includes the adequacy, but
Right.
that's revenue coming in, correct?
Correct. That, however, does not, that goes directly, as I described last night, goes directly to offsetting the taxes. It's not, it would not be included in the revenues that would be as part of that warrant. So that could be where you're seeing that difference.
All right,
It
but
also included food and nutrition. So that's where, which is not included in those warrants. All the monies that you see in those warrants, which you don't see now, those revenues were specific to our federal entitlements, which are current federal entitlements, Title I, Title IIA, and our Title IA focus set aside for Article 4. And Article 5 was, that's the SAU budget, correct? Article 5?
Yes, it is.
yeah.
That $820,000 includes the IDEA monies, Bright Beginnings monies, and indirect costs. So adequacy aid and food and nutrition aren't included in any of those. They come in as revenues, and they go directly to offsetting the taxes. They do not run through our budget, our operating budget.
Mr. Brown?
So then, I guess I'm a little confused. Why is that $405,000 not, if we now need to reflect all revenues into our budget, why is that 405,000, if you will, I don't know, don't quote me as that being the exact number, it's somewhere right around there, but somewhere around, why is that 405,000 not being reflected anywhere? I think this is really gonna confuse the taxpayers when they go into the ballot box. And if we're only doing part of it, it makes it even more confusing, so.
Madam Chair, correct me if I'm wrong, that was amended last night, so they're
It
not going to
was.
see those numbers.
No.
That was amended last night.
Yes, correct.
Right, but I still, why was that 405,000 left out? If we're going to start reporting revenues in the budgets, then it should be all revenue, not one part A, but in part C, but we're gonna leave out part B. I think it's either all or either you show all the revenue or you don't show all the revenue. This only doing bits and pieces of it isn't, I believe, to be the right way to handle it. So, that's my comment.
Okay. Any committee reports? I don't believe so.
I'll take it right off the agenda from now till election, right?
Administration financial reports. Go ahead, Mr. Tursi.
I'm going to hand this over to Mr. Castle this evening for any
Yay.
questions.
He's becoming a grown-up. Yay.
So the first report we have is the monthly expense report through December 30th, 2014. You have any questions on that one?
No, go ahead.
Okay. The next report is the monthly revenue through December 30th, 2014. Any questions on that one?
What are the monies still missing?
I'm sorry, can you clarify?
Maybe I'm reading it wrong. Are there monies still not, are there monies we still haven't received?
Town's gonna make another installment, right? Every, how many months? Every?
The drawdown's every month.
Every month.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Go ahead.
And then the next report is the monthly grant overview through December 30th, 2014. Is there any questions with that?
Go ahead.
The next report is the cash reconciliation of the general fund for October 2014.
How come we're months behind on that? I don't know, it's January 7th? Why isn't it done for December yet? Just asking.
December, we don't, the clerk doesn't get the bank statement until the 15th of the month.
Okay, so why isn't November done then?
Not sure.
Okay,
I'll look into it.
thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
The treasurer's report for October is next. Any questions on that?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. And then the last report is Café Services financial statements through November 31st of 2014.
Who is, should these reports give us some indication of what our accounts payable are? Or what our accounts receivable are? Or is there a way to add that so that we know monthly without having to ask?
I'll have to look into that.
Okay, I guess I'm just concerned because at the last meeting, we had Café Services here, and verbiage on some of the letters was an issue, as well as making sure that the letters were going out in the timely fashion to correlate with the policy.
Yep.
And I just want to make sure that that doesn't get overlooked, because the verbiage in those letters, and then I'd like to see, like, month by month, what the accounts receivable are, to see.
Okay.
And that would help us make I guess it would help the policy committee make a decision if we have to change that policy to collect those monies.
Okay. I can get that for you.
Thanks.
That's it.
Yep. Any other questions?
We're good. Thank you very much.
How hard was that?
It was hard.
We were easy on him tonight. School Administrative Unit number 64, the enrollment. Mr. Tercey, who's doing that? Mr. Murphy, you?
Included in your packet this evening is our enrollment as of December 23rd. You can see that we have a total enrollment in pre-K through grade 12 of 629 students. And you can see in the below that the missing residency forms at Paul School. We currently have 39 missing, and at Spalding 76.
Bonnie.
Where are you in your steps to accumulate those?
I wanted to ask the board this evening if you would like for me to send out the second letter to the parents that have not turned in those residency forms.
I thought that that had already been in place.
The second letter?
I guess I have a question. When you send out the first letter, do you send a copy of the policy with it that says, that stipulates specifically that annually they have to fill out that residency form for their child to continue to be educated through our district?
I don't send the actual policy, but it's stated in the letter.
Maybe we need to start attaching the policy to the front so they realize that we're not doing it just to, we understand people who lived here for years, and it's a nuisance to some. But 76 in January is high. It's lower than last year, but it's still high. How do we make the tuition payments to Spalding if they're that high?
They were a lot higher this year.
This year than they were last year.
Last year, this was all cleaned up.
Yeah. So how do you make your tuition payments?
We make the tuition payment. We're required to make those payments.
I understand that,
it's our
but
responsibility.
I find that we need to be extremely more forthcoming on collection.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
Ralph.
Mr. Fogg.
I'll yield my time to you if you'd like.
No, I can wait.
I think the quick solution to this would be at this point to ask our truant officer to verify, give him the list of the students who have not been able to complete their residency forms for whatever reason. I'm sure he's got the ability and the desire to verify these students, whether they're here in town or not. The short conversation I had with him, he said it was part of his job. So I think it's time I would make a motion to ask the truant officer to take the list from the SAU, whatever that, or the school, whatever list that may be, and he may be able to sit right down and verify immediately a half a dozen or 3 dozen.
Go ahead.
I thought we went through that last year of doing that same thing you just mentioned, that he was going to do that somewhere through after the first of the year, that he was going to actually do that.
I don't think he's done it this year. So my motion is to ask him to do it.
I'll second it. Discussion. I guess my problem with that is that verifying, I mean, we can all look at the list, Ralph, and know that students live here or not. It's having the parents be accountable for filling out the paperwork and getting that signature in. Because we can all verify to the best of our knowledge that they live there, but they need to take the couple minutes to fill out the paperwork so that we have it in our file.
Some folks aren't going to take 2 seconds, 2 minutes. Some people are just going to reject it. And if it's an issue of, are they in our district or are they not in our district, you know, I think the question can be answered with the help of our truant officer.
Bob?
But not through the help of the school board. We can't take that list and say, we know they live here. Taking our word for it that way? I mean,
No, that's why I'm asking the board to ask the truant officer.
Right, but I think you said that we can take the list ourselves, right?
I hope I didn't say that.
I think that...
I hope I had said, ask the truant officer to, take whatever list he needs from the SAU or from the school, wherever it's generated, and ask him to
Again, I believe
verify
that came up
something.
last year of the same.
I
What's
think...
Mr. Tracy's opinion?
Now you can speak.
Thanks, Mr. Fogg. I agree with Mr. Fogg. What happened last year is the fact that we changed the process by sending out a self-addressed stamped envelope to people to fill out and send back in. We received several at the beginning with the first letter that went out, this is last year, and then we sent out a second letter and with a self-addressed stamped envelope, and we received some back, and then we sent the truant officer out to confirm the remainder, which was around 10. This year, I have the feeling that people were waiting for the self-addressed stamped envelope.
Why didn't that go out?
It did go out. The first letter went out, and that's why we have 50% of them back, because at the beginning of the year, we didn't have any. So what I'm asking the board, would you like for me to send out the second letter with the self-addressed stamped envelope, because you keep incurring those costs for postage, or do we take Mr. Fogg's recommendation and give the truant officer the list to confirm their residency? The only problem with that is that the policy states specifically that they have to submit.
The form.
The form, and that should be the way the policies,
So I'll be happy to send out the second letter. I just wanted to make sure the board was aware that that's what is going on at this point.
Bob?
Michael, at this time last year, we were already through the second letter. The second letter already went out. So why would we actually change the process when we know it worked last year? our numbers were way below this last year at this time. Why do we need to come back to the board to ask if we can send a second letter out? When it worked last year, why don't we do the same process we did last year?
That's fine.
I'm just asking that question.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think you may be worried about the expense incurred and want board direction.
I'll make a motion to, oh, there's a motion on the table already for discussion.
And you seconded it for discussion?
Yes, I
Would you-
did.
Would you move the question, Madam Chair?
Can you repeat the motion, please?
Hell, no. I mean,
To send that, to give this,
Truant
the
officer.
truant officer the list of outstanding students and have him verify residency. That's the motion on the table.
Discussion? I still think we should follow the process of last year and send out the second letter first, and then go forward with the truant officer. That's my opinion.
Withdraw
but
your
that'll be your motion after this one fails?
Yeah, sure.
Would you call the
All
vote?
in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I was opposed to it.
Okay, opposed. Aye.
Steve, were you in favor or
Yes.
opposed? In favor.
Okay, Bob?
So I'd like to make a motion to follow the same process we did last year and send out the second letter with a self-addressed envelope as our next step, and then follow that up with the truant officer list to him.
I'll second.
Whatever time frame that may be after that.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Discussion? Can we add the policy so they understand that we're not doing it to just be crazy? We're doing it because we pay money on them? Like, add that policy so that they know that that's the reason
I'll add
behind
that
it?
to my motion.
Okay.
Rob, second?
I'll second the addition to the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Correspondence.
Correspondence. Yes, Mr.
Oh,
Brown.
sorry,
I-
I still had a couple things. on
Oh,
my
okay.
report.
I had something too. But Can I ask, the Time Warner is right around $569 a month. I'm seeing a E-rate refund of $3,000, we can't be getting $3,000. Can we get what rate we're paying now for Time Warner? We're now up at the 50 gig, correct? So can we get a number as to what the monthly rate is of Time Warner, factoring into that the E-rate?
So cost for Time Warner?
Per month, please, with the bottom line after the E-rate has been factored into it.
Get that, Mr. Castle?
Yep, mine.
Okay, Mr. Tercey, go ahead and finish. I thought you only had enrollment tonight, so.
No, I have a couple things I have two more items, and one of the items is I wanted to bring forward, it was brought to my attention that our 8th graders have the opportunity to extend their annual Boston field trip that's been only for one day. In the past, they have the opportunity to actually extend that to 2 days with an overnight, because the 8th graders have done an excellent job of fundraising to the point where that is a possibility to do a 2-day and overnight. And I see it as an excellent opportunity because my understanding is that the 1-day trip, they left very early in the morning and they came back very late at night, and they weren't able to actually see all of the things that they wanted to see. And this would give the 8th graders an opportunity to, on the first day, walk the entire Freedom Trail and reconvene that evening and determine what sites they want to see the second day without being pressed to get back. So I think this is an excellent opportunity. It'd be a great way to really just commend the 8th graders for fundraising and extend that out for 2 days compared to just the single day. That's completely, it's on the calendar right now for June 5th, and if we went the second day, it would go to June 6th. And I'd like for the board to take action on that this evening and approve that so that the 8th grade team can move forward with having a parent night and getting the word out.
Oh, do you have a question?
Well, my comment would be that I think it's a great idea, but I would like to know where are the referees? I mean, how are we gonna, who are the responsible adults that'll go along?
May I?
Yeah.
And we're fortunate enough this evening to have the 8th grade team with us that can answer any questions that you might have. So the questions around chaperones and
Let Ralph
Okay.
address this question first. You wanna?
Yeah, we have all of the 4 core, academic 8th grade teachers always go. We generally bring paraprofessionals that work with those students as well. Depending on medical issues, we usually, if there's a medical issue, we try to bring the nurse. We usually bring a member of administration. And usually we have a lot of parents who are interested in coming on because it's a lot of fun. So we haven't sent out anything yet about what parents would be interested. But, we generally have no problem getting people that want to come along.
So I heard teachers, paras, that's 8, right? And nurse maybe, and another administrator. So maybe 10 school-affiliated personnel.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it's usually about that.
How big is the class?
It's a very small class. We have 37 students.
You think all of them would be able to attend or go?
We want that to happen. Yes, very much.
It's up to the parents whether or not.
Yep. If the parents are on board, and as long as their behavior is such, I think last year we. I think it was about February, we basically sat down with the class and said, these are the expectations you need to meet. We need to be able to trust you. We're bringing you to the city. We need to make sure that you can follow the guidelines here if we're gonna, entrust you to be out somewhere else. And we've been pretty successful, and it seems like, every year there's, maybe 1 or 2 that can't participate because of some bad decision making, but generally speaking, we get almost everybody to come.
My question was pretty much answered, was we're going to up the ante on the chaperones for this, of course, and then Ralph brought up if any medical issues that we had,
Yeah.
that'll be taken care of too.
I like the 4-to-1 ratio.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds safe. And so with more, that's just considering the school-affiliated personnel. With more parents, I think that ratio is going to shrink. So,
Mr. Brown?
I'm trying to recall, and it may even been before my time on the board, but didn't they used to do overnight and then it stopped? Is there a liability issue? Does anybody recall what there was a reason why it stopped, and I'm trying to
Well, I don't know, do you know the history?
I believe we had one class that made some significantly bad decisions, and after that, maybe the staff decided that it was a little overwhelming.
that was 35 years ago.
It was a
Let's go.
long time ago. We have a new staff, you have new rules in place, but you always have the option of maybe one particular class making poor choices, which can burn out certain staff members to not want to do it anymore. But, I mean, it was Washington, it has,
Canada. They went to Canada.
They went to Canada, so it has been some amazing things in the past.
Mr. Gregoire?
I think the difference too can be that what you'll find now is a very highly structured design trip by travel professionals. At night, there will be security who will walk the hallways instead of depending on the poor overtired staff to stay up all night and then be wrecked for the following day to be a good chaperone. You're not depending on tape on the doors anymore. They're very, very highly structured. I've taken kids to DC, I've taken kids to Montreal, and had great success with that. Really, I think if we're going to work at this again and make this part of our program and as a reward to the 8th grade, this is a great class to do that with, to work some bugs out if we have any. But really, I have no doubts that the staff will do a great job with this. They've worked with this company for 4 years, and I think it'll go for it very, very well.
Do we need a motion for that, Mrs. Quick?
I would prefer that.
I'll make a motion to support the 8th grade trip being extended to 2 days.
And I will second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Have
Wanna
fun. Let us know.
I want to go?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a really good time.
It's also worth noting that it couldn't happen without the support of the active parents and a really supportive community as well this year. So
Great.
Yeah, I mean, we couldn't believe we fundraised about $11,000.
Wow.
You know, one of the things I did tell Mr. Tercey, just to, you know, kind of talk up this class, I was really impressed with them. They did decide not to do a big field trip last year. They said, you know, we're going to carry over our money, which I thought showed a lot of maturity on their part, you know, to kind of say, we're going to, you know, be forward thinking about what we want to do. So, and they really are, you know, they really are a great class. So.
That's great. You guys will have a great time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One more item.
One more,
Madam
go
Chair.
for it.
So I want to bring up, this is a time we need to start thinking about the school board scholarship. Mrs. Sear brought it up earlier in the meeting, and the policy was amended. I just would like to know if I don't believe the policy states specifically that the board will determine the question. So that was all the process in the past. I just don't know how involved the board wants to be with the process compared to reviewing the essays and determining the winner.
I just have, and I'm not, do you know which policy that is? I looked back on January 7th, Ralph, and I couldn't find.
Yeah, I was wrong about that date. I'm
Which
sorry.
date are you looking at then, please? And is it under, is there a specific policy?
There is.
And what is the policy?
I think it's school board scholarship.
Yeah.
I understand.
I've seen that policy.
I just
I don't
wanted
know
to.
the
I'm looking for it right now.
Letter off the top of my head.
I just want to take a
I
peek
thought
at
I
it.
grabbed it, and I may have still grabbed it.
Because I was quite clear that there were very specific directives in it, but yet I've been told that I hand-delivered a scholarship, so I want to make sure that I follow the policy correctly. So if I could just have that, that would be great.
There's definitely a policy I have seen.
Yeah,
policy.
I just want to
thought
have
I
it.
grabbed it.
I just want to see it so that I can further the discussion, because I did get correspondence in correlation with the topic.
I'm sorry, I can't provide that right now, but
Okay, well, Mr. Tercey and Mr. Gregoire are both looking through.
I would like all of the qualifying candidates to be able to come in, sit down with the school board, you know, I mean, or if there's essays written, or, you know, whatever it is, it would be nice to have all of the school board be able to see the effort, you know, so that, you know, maybe we'll be able to.
I have to say, it was an English teacher, Mr. Gregoire, another advisor for the scholarship, Mr. Gregoire. There were like 4 or 5 people, and then there was someone from the school board. And I have to say that somewhere in the minutes, I was given the opportunity to be that school board member, which I was very happy to do. But if Mr. Fogg, you seem very passionate about it. I mean, I felt privileged to read the letters and the answers, but if you would like to do that instead of myself, I have no problem with that. Last year was just the chosen lucky one that got to do it. So, but I worked alongside with Mr. Gregoire and the other people, but I don't have a problem rotating that or even giving it up, because I know that afterwards I can sit and read them all. So I have no problem with that.
Brown, Mr. Brown?
It is a school board policy, and therefore it should be the school board, not just one member of the school board, determining who the lucky recipient will be, and therefore the policy should be adhered to, and it's a school board scholarship. The school board should award the scholarship.
I'm still looking for the policy number.
Yeah,
Mr.
it might take a
Tercey?
little while. So what I'd recommend is that we put that policy on the next agenda to review, to get
Please.
clarification on the process.
That's
Yes.
wonderful. And
Good
then-
idea.
Okay.
Yep, the correspondence.
Okay, are you done, Mr. Tercey? Because I don't want to
Yes,
move
thank you.
forward. Okay, so in correlation with what Mr. Tercey just brought up, I just received a letter from Spalding in regards to wanting to move forward with that. So I'm gonna, the contact person and all that information was Mr. Tercey last year. So Angela Green was nice enough to send this to me. I think because I was part of the Wakefield PTA before, I don't know why she has me as a contact, but I am for the Level Lake Association and other scholarships in town as well. So I'm going to hand this off to you, Mr. Tercey, and then you can bring it to the next meeting. And once we do the policy and things are decided, you can fill it out and take care of it. You might just want to call and confirm whether or not the scholarship will take place or not. I didn't put received. I don't have a stamp with me. Do you have a stamp that just says like received?
It's on the envelope, I believe.
I put my gum on the envelope.
That's okay. What do you have?
And you can have that if you need DNA for anything, but other than that, you know, I was going to put it in the rubbish. Sorry.
Actually, so...
Okay.
We'll
You
bring it
have
up
something
at the
under
next
correspondence as well? Okay, go ahead.
How do we make sure that the corresponding RFP gets beyond page 3? I mean, the effort to reach out to potential bidders when the town does it, an RFP, this is what goes in the newspaper. And it tells you to contact certain places. It goes into both the local papers. It doesn't, this is lengthy, a lot of words, and a lot of redundancy. And it doesn't really get to the point. So communication should be where we need this service, contact this person, get the stuff. This particular printing company has 11 papers that they distribute to about 100,000 people in a lot of towns for the same price if it's on the classified page. People who are in business looking for work go to the classifieds to look for work. So I would just, I don't know how to communicate the desire or the need to reach a larger population without spending a whole bunch of money. If we could work together as a board so that, you know, I know that there's been offered, help has been offered on this. It can be a smaller, less expensive deal, reaching more people, more towns. The rate for something in classifieds, if it was 100 words extra above and beyond the 30, it'd be another $25. So it'd be $35 for the first week, $65 if you go 2 weeks plus the original 25. That's, my math skills would say $90 for 2 weeks and 11 papers for this salmon press. And by the looks of that, I bet we're spending 100 and, well, there's 100 words in the first paragraph. 100 beyond the 30 that's cost $35. There's a second paragraph that looks the same size, so that's pretty.
I think the smallest ad is $126, I believe, the last I heard.
Excuse me. I'm trying to keep with the agenda here, Ralph, and that's not correspondence.
Sure,
you're
it
not
is.
finding correspondence with that. And I
It's
think
communicating.
and I understand that, but I think that's something that needs to be put on the agenda for a full discussion. This is not the time to be having a full discussion on this.
Yeah, all right.
So we need to either do we have a policy? If we have a policy on it, we should take a look at how we're doing that, or we should at least write a policy for it.
I don't think there's a policy involved.
Okay, well, then we need to put that on the agenda to take a look at how we're doing the advertising, Mr. Tercey. I know you've got a lot of notes, but that's off agenda.
I think I related it to communications with.
It was correspondence. Sorry, getting a little off topic.
Started with a C.
Yeah, you were close. Public comment?
Yes, I think the 8th grade trip is great, but as the president of the paraprofessional union, our contract states that we only work 6.5 hours per school day. And if pairs go as chaperones outside the normal school day, I'd like to know how that's going to be addressed, because normally they would have to be paid their hourly rate. So that needs to be considered before
Okay.
we use paras.
All right, Mr. Tercey can check into that and definitely get back to us on that.
Mr. Gregoire?
Or Mr. Gregoire.
They're not going as volunteers? I mean, are the teachers seeking compensation?
Technically, you can't let them go, as from what I talked to people in the NEA. That's considered, it would be a work job in charge of students, so it would have to be paid.
I'll volunteer to go. And I don't care. Yep. So maybe, you know, you look at other adults.
If
So
necessary, if you can't take the paras, maybe you will have to look at other.
Yeah, and we would never, you know, tell someone they have to come. You know,
Sure.
we would never put anybody in that position, because I agree, that is, you know, I mean, it is illegal to require people to work and not pay them. So, you know, that wouldn't be something that we would.
I would go for the fun of it.
Yeah, I thought the teachers and the paras were, and everybody involved was going for the fun.
Yeah, kind of went to celebrate the
Yeah,
eighth grade.
yeah.
I didn't realize that it was
Yeah.
more than that. So let us know what your plan is.
Anything else? No more public comment? Mr. Tracy, I know we spoke earlier about setting the hearing for the public.
Yes.
So we need to, that's going on the next agenda?
We talk about it as a board. We need to have a public hearing for both the $6,600 for the tree removal, as well as the $57,000 for roof.
Go ahead.
6,000.
6,000.
So we do need to set up that public hearing so we can get that taken care of.
So would you like to do that at the next board meeting, as part of the board meeting?
Sure.
I think, isn't it a 2-week notice for a public hearing?
That's good. So as of today,
There's
2
a-
weeks.
Yeah, so actually you may have to,
Yeah, because we've
Right.
been
maybe
getting the
13
paper.
days out
Yeah,
tomorrow.
you gotta get it in the paper, so it's probably gonna have to be a month.
So it'll be the first meeting in February, we
Yeah.
can pull it off.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right, 2 weeks.
Okay.
Okay, so first week of February? The first meeting in February?
First meeting in February.
Well, oh, no, yeah, right, that would give you,
That would do it.
well, as long as you get 2 weeks prior.
I just have one more.
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, I would just, there's several policies that have been requested to be on the next agenda.
Yes.
I would just want to extend the suggestion or the recommendation that board members come to the meeting with recommended amendments to those policies based on what you'd like to see, so that we could just review the amendments
And go forward.
and have that conversation.
So really, the conversation would be any revisions, which have to be, you know, discussed in public for, I think, 2 different times if you're going to make a change. If the policy is to be reviewed and reaffirmed, I don't know. Priscilla, does that need to go 2 different public hearings for, if you're reaffirming an already written policy?
You can't make a change to a policy, you have a public.
But if you're not changing anything, if you're just reaffirming a policy, does it still go to the 2 hearing process?
Public hearing on a policy.
Pardon me?
No.
I
Mr.
think
Tercey.
There's
the
first
policy-
readings and second readings.
Right.
First and second readings.
There's
Go ahead.
Public hearings aren't necessary for a policy. You have to make the policy available to the public prior to the final approval, so that they have an opportunity to provide input. That could be through the public comment on the agenda. The review of potential amendments at the first meeting, since we're doing it as a full board, would act as the first review and first reading, and then at the second meeting would be considered the second reading and the potential approval. So we'd be all set.
I think I saw a policy regarding that.
Yes, Mr. Brown?
Would that be accurate, Mr. Tercey? Because, although I understand you can make changes at a first or a second reading, but wouldn't the debate on the policy itself
Could continue at the second
It could, but, I mean, if as you're making, let's say you have policy ABC, and tonight we have policy ABC, and we make changes to the policy. Is that actually ample time for the public to respond as a first reading? Or should the first reading actually come at the following meeting?
You can do it either way.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I think the policy clearly states that after the decisions are made, there needs to be, again, another 2-week time period for everybody to digest what's been approved as a change, and then at that subsequent meeting, that's when you adopt it.
Bonnie?
I would recommend, for the benefit of the public who has the policy, and with the 5 of us speaking in correlation with the other people in regards to the policy, it's going to be very difficult for them to follow along. So I would strongly suggest that when it comes to the policy for the first time, it's actually the discussion, and then the first reading would be after all the amendments have been made, so that their paperwork correlates with what our discussions were.
Yep.
And that's how we've done it in the past. And I would say moving forward, that would be in the best interest. At least I would find it in the best interest, because they might not have the verbiage correct.
I think it adheres to the policy, too.
All right, everybody bring their policies and be ready. All right, anybody want to make a motion to go in non-public?
I will make a motion to go into non-public pursuant to RSA 91A, ;3, 2B.
Second.
All in favor?
Fall guy.
What I.
Joy, aye.
Brown, yes.
Thanks, guys.